Hello everyone, welcome back to AGV Cars. Today, at the end of the 2014 season and the end of the 2014 year, I think it's about time to talk about the top 5 drivers, in my opinion anyway, in the 2014 Formula 1 World Championship. Really hoping to get this done now before 2015 starts and we can dive straight in at the deep end into some previews and looks at who's going to be good and who's going to be strong in 2015. So, starting here, I have worked out who I think are the top 5 drivers of the 2014 season, and sneaking into 5th place was Fernando Alonso. Now, this was by far his worst year at Ferrari since he joined in 2010, and his last year, leaving for McLaren next year. But he does sneak into the top 5 because mainly the car was so bad. I think we can all agree that this year the Ferrari car was just atrocious. It was probably the 4th or 5th best car. It was definitely behind the Mercedes, Williams and Red Bull, and then at times it was between the McLaren and the Ferrari for who had the 4th best car, with McLaren improving vastly towards the end of the season. But he does sneak in there. He really showed up his teammate Kimi Räikkönen this year. Alonso ended the season with 161 points, whereas Räikkönen was down in 12th position with 55 points, with Alonso up in 6th at 161. That is it's almost 3 times the amount of points that Räikkönen scored. And yes, Räikkönen had a few issues. He didn't like the car this year. He wasn't familiar with the fly-by-wire brakes, but no one was. And there wasn't really an excuse. There was an excuse for the first 3 or 4 races. And then it's kind of pointing towards Räikkönen just can't settle down again at Ferrari. Maybe he doesn't like the people, he doesn't like the management. Well, Alonso certainly did not like the management at the end. But we can agree it was a terrible year for the Ferrari team anyway, and that is basically why Fernando sneaks into the top 5 drivers, because he really did outdrive the car, as he has done every year at Ferrari. So yeah, there we go, Alonso in 5th position. Now, 4th position, you may be surprised to hear that I think Felipe Massa is the 4th best driver this year. The improvement he showed this year over 2013 was quite vast. I know the car was a major part of that. The Williams has really come on leaps and bounds, and are my team of the year anyway. They have really, really showed what you can do if you really put your heart and soul into it, get all the people you need, build up your empire, and then start to just roll out some really great cars. So Felipe Massa does come into 4th place behind his teammate. He's not by any means ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who has definitely exceeded all expectations on him as well. But you have to remember that Felipe Massa has been the unluckiest driver of the year. He has had some absolutely outrageously bad luck in the 2014 season. There were 6 races where his race was hampered either by someone hitting him and taking him out of the race, whether it was a mechanical failure, whether it was strategy gone atrociously wrong, the team's fault, anything like that. There were 6 times this year that something like that has happened to Massa, whereas Valtteri Bottas had 1 weekend like that. That's 1 against 6. And that is, I think, why Bottas ended up with 180 points and Massa down in 134 points. And actually what I did, now I am a Massa fan, I must admit, so I may be a small bit biased here, but I knew that Massa's year was not that bad compared to his teammate. So I did a little snooping around, and I found that there were only 12 races in the 2014 season where both Bottas and Massa didn't have any issues at all. No issues. So they both had a clean race. And out of those 12 races, Massa finished ahead of his teammate 8 times, whereas his teammate Valtteri Bottas finished ahead of Massa 4 times. And I think that goes to show that if Massa didn't have that bad luck, he would have been the one up in 4th position at the end of the championship. And people would have hailed him as maybe one of the standouts of the year. So I really think that he really has gone under the radar this year in terms of his speed and his just raw ability shining through once again in a new environment where he can really shine after moving from Ferrari after 8 years. So that's it. I think Massa is in 4th. In 3rd position then is his teammate Valtteri Bottas, who we have just talked about a little bit. He is ahead of Massa, I think, because of the fact that he's not experienced. This was his team effectively. He had more control of the team over Massa and had to sort of make way for Massa coming in. But he has shown a lot of speed. I know Massa did get the pole that Valtteri did not, but I really think that Bottas maybe did a slight better job in terms of just the whole package. And I think next year really will be the season where we really see who's the better driver between Bottas and Massa. Of course, depending on the car. Hopefully the Williams is as good next year as it was this year, or even better. So that's Bottas. In 2nd place now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the world champion Lewis Hamilton. 2nd position, very, very strong drive throughout the year, beating his teammate Nico Rosberg in what was an amazing car, the Mercedes. That car was always going to be the World Championship winning car. It didn't really matter who was in it. But Hamilton did win 11 races this year, while Rosberg was stuck on 5. And I think races such as Monza and Suzuka and Brazil in a way showed how much faster Hamilton was than his teammate, just raw speed. I know in Italy Rosberg was leading, and Hamilton was catching him quite quickly. And I believe anyway that when Rosberg went wide or skipped the chicane at turn 1, that was he knew Hamilton was faster. He knew he was going to be passed. I think he did that on purpose, just to save him the embarrassment really of being passed on track by his teammate. But of course that did happen later in the season then at the quite tragic Japanese Grand Prix. Of course, all thoughts still with Jules Bianchi and of course Michael Schumacher today, being recorded on the 29th of December. The Japanese Grand Prix, I think, the move that Hamilton pulled on Rosberg at turn 1 on a wet track around the outside of turn 1 at Suzuka, it was it was in the top 5 overtakes of the season anyway. And I think that just put Rosberg in his place. He knew from that point on that he wasn't going to win the championship, and that cemented the fact that Hamilton was faster than Rosberg in a race situation. And then of course Brazil, although Rosberg did win it and Hamilton did spin under pressure, if you will, it did show Hamilton was catching Rosberg hand over fist and he couldn't pass Rosberg, but that was due to the nature of the track, and it is very hard to pass in Brazil in the same car, Mercedes being as fast as it is in the straight. So yeah, I think that was a fair judgment for me to put Hamilton in the 2nd position in the top 5 drivers. So now we come on to who, in my opinion anyway, has shown the best speed and the best performance out of all the 26 drivers. Oh no, there was only 22 to start with, wasn't there? 23 or 24, including Andre Lotterer and Will Stevens, who came in for Caterham at the Belgian and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But anyway, I think that the best driver out of the lot of them this year has been Daniel Ricciardo. driving for Red Bull. I think this year he's really shone. I think he came into Formula One in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, with the HRT Hispania Grand Prix racing team. He spent a year there, went to Toro Rosso. He spent 2 years there with John Eric Verne, and he did put Verne in his place also and showed his natural ability there. Before, of course, moving up to replace fellow Aussie man Mark Webber when he left for World Endurance Championship racing. And, like, that was not an easy start of the season with Ricciardo. He knew he was getting into a car. He knew it wasn't going to be very competitive. The Renault, especially with the Renault engine, had some... Well, they had an atrocious pre-season testing build up to the season. And he knew, like Sebastian Vettel had won the past 4 World Championships. Ricciardo kind of knew he would be playing second fiddle to Vettel. And, well, he wasn't, was he? He got the podium in Australia, only to be disqualified later for the fuel flow sensors. And then he just really outdrove the car in some respects, but his teammates certainly in the rest of the season. Of course, the only man who was not driving a Mercedes car to win a Grand Prix this season. And he did not only do that once, but 3 times, of course, in the Canadian Grand Prix, where, yes, Hamilton and Rosberg both had issues. The Hungary Grand Prix, which was wet, but he did win it on merit. There were no issues for Rosberg. Hamilton started from the pits, but Ricciardo did win that on merit. Also, the Belgian Grand Prix. And those 3 wins over his teammates, Sebastian, I think this year he just really grew as a driver and also as a person, and I'm certainly looking forward to him next year in the Red Bull being partnered with Kvyat, who is moving up, of course, from the Toro Rosso. So that's it. To recap there, top 5 drivers. In 5th position there was Fernando Alonso. 4th was Massa, his teammate Valtteri Bottas in 3rd. World champion Lewis Hamilton in 2nd, and then Daniel Ricciardo in 1st. I hope you enjoyed that little talk about who I think are the best 5 drivers this season. Be sure to let me know your top 5 drivers in the comments if you want. Like and subscribe as always. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.